It's the year, so it is the 2022. Those minutes were from the 2022 meeting that took place in 2023. Okay, I've got to go see.
So
Gary
this
real
is
quick.
this then is the 2023.
This is the annual meeting from 2020.
See, I thought that doesn't make sense to me. Doesn't make sense to me. That's not right. Oh, gosh. Don't start, I have to go get my phone. The reason I asked that question, Cindy, is because the last minutes said the minutes from the 2022 annual meeting were approved. These can't both be.
Oh, that's true.
So I
that's
think
true.
this is wrong, and it should
Okay.
have been, it's in 2023, it's the annual meeting.
Okay,
So I don't think that should.
we
say
will have one
2022.
amendment. I'm not. Okay, you will, what's your
Get my
sign?
phone.
Okay. Jennifer, am I up and running? I am. Okay, thank you. We're doing a count right now after we got everyone signed in. We're waiting for the online people for us to be streaming. So just give us a minute here.
Okay, so at this point, we're still needing a few more to meet a quorum. So we just got the live stream up and running, so we'll hope that there's some people that come on there so that we can get the quorum. So if you are watching online, please make sure that you either message Brian on Facebook or send a text to 515-447-2885 to let Pastor Brian know how many are there watching with you.
That was wonderful. I can already go to page 2.
You can already go to page 2,
That was wonderful.
other than we need the 100 people.
Yes,
so-
we do need the 100 people, so we are waiting for that.
Yes. Oh, sure. That makes sense. So, yeah, okay. So I'll have to do that announcement again.
Or I could read it from my notes.
2 minutes. All right. So, hang
So
tight.
I'm gonna make this correction, because it can't be,
Just a minute, just a minute.
I should stay here.
because it was the annual meeting we had last year.
You're taking over. Uh-oh.
Just for like 2 seconds. Pastor Perry's birthday was yesterday. Hey! So I think we should sing while we're waiting those 2 minutes. Does that sound okay? Okay. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Perry. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you. I'm not sure if, having my birthday right around the annual meeting is a blessing or a curse. But anyway, it always ends up right on that time frame. So thank you. And based on my phone, we've got about half a minute before the online will be clicking on. Anybody need an annual report to take a look at?
There will be a lot of referencing to the annual
There-
report,
there-
so
yeah.
you may want one.
Anybody else that didn't grab one? Yeah, you can, go ahead. Yep. We're live.
We're
Great.
live.
Okay.
Great.
I'll redo my announcement. Are we showing anybody online? All right. So again, We've got 4 people online. Great. So we need a few of you online folks to register. So if you are watching online, please either make a comment in Facebook with who all is there in attendance with you, and also if you're watching through the website, through the live stream on the website, text 515-447-2885. Again, and that is Pastor Brian, so let him know how many are there. I know we were in the mid-80s, I think, here, so we're getting close. And while we're waiting, I'll maybe make a couple of announcements or adjustments in the annual report.
Here you go, as long as I get it.
Except I have mine highlighted,
Okay.
so I know what I... So this will assist you as we go through. A couple of changes on the stats in terms of the statistics page on page 27. If you go to that, the old books, if you brought your book from home or watching online and printed out a book early, transfers in should say 37 under baptized and 27 under confirmed, which would then leave the totals at 1989 for baptized and 1475 under confirmed. So that's one change to put on if you had the one of the first copies of the annual report. And then if you go to the very back, or towards the back page, page 41, in the middle section, the second one down is financial secretary. Cheryl Paul has agreed to do that, so if you have an older book, please write in Cheryl Paul. And then the next line down is the nominating committee, and the nominating committee essentially consists of those who went off the board this year. They get to help us find new people for next year, but it's a fairly simple process because I help quite a bit with that. So anyway, that is listed as vote for 4 of the 5. It should be vote for 5, so we're not leaving anybody out. And that's all the updates I have.
I guess I need an update on the count.
Yep.
Say it again.
97.
There were some people.
Did everybody sign in that is here? If you didn't sign in with somebody with a computer, raise your hand. If you didn't sign in with the computer, telling somebody your name, we need to get you signed in. Okay. Perfect. That'll get us to 100. Anybody else that needs to sign in?
We'd like 101.
100's good. 100's good.
I know.
But yeah, 101 is 1% better.
Just in case somebody has to play sick and to leave, we need that extra person.
No.
Okay.
We did, yeah.
Okay, I'm kidding. Are we ready? Do we have, where are we? We are there, yay. Okay. I call the meeting to order at, how about 12:04? Okay. But I had a few things I wanted to say before I called it to order, but we are called to order. I am Cindy Redmond, your congregational president. I just want you to remind you of a few things to be looking at as we wait between agenda items. The minutes from the last congregational meeting are on pages 2 and 3, so you can study those. The agenda for this meeting is on page 1, so you can look for that. And the financial reports start on page 28, so you can study those as you have time. Thank you all for being here, those of you online and those of you here in the sanctuary. Pastor Brian will start the meeting with prayer. I didn't give you much notice. I'm sorry about that. Got the head.
I'm untangled. I'll see if I can get tangled up again. I'm done here. But please join me in prayer. Jesus Christ, it's your church from beginning to end. We give thanks that we're called to be a part of it, and that you've granted us a great variety of gifts to utilize as a part of it. So as we gather today to look back on what's been accomplished through your church in this last year, and as we look for guidance for what's to come for the year ahead and the years to come ahead, we give thanks for your presence with us, and we ask for your guidance. All this we pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you. We ask that anyone who wants to address the meeting to please stand if you are able, and one of the two people with microphones, which I believe are Lenny and Sue, if that's correct, will come to you with a microphone so that we can all hear you in the sanctuary, and those of you online will be able to hear your comments and questions also. For those of you online, welcome. We're very glad that you're here. If you have any questions or comments, please, and you're watching via the website, 3cross.org, please text Pastor Brian at 515-447-2885. Or those of you watching on Facebook, please put your comments and questions in Facebook comments. And we will let your comments and questions be known to those of us in the sanctuary. Just so you know, we do need to pause for the online people to have time to catch up. They're about 20 to 30 seconds behind us here in the sanctuary. Please be patient and study the documents in your report in the meantime. Those of you online, you can vote, you can make your comments, you can make your questions at any time, and the sooner we have your information, the sooner we can tabulate the results. We will be taking about a 1 to 2 minute break between agenda items, so the online people have time to make their thoughts known, and those of you in the sanctuary have time to get your comments and questions asked. I have often thought that the minutes between the agenda items could be uncomfortable pauses or silences. However, while planning for this meeting, I was reminded of what Archie used to say: if we just listen, we can hear God all around us. So as we're experiencing those silences, we're just going to listen and hear God at work, okay? We're going to start. In your annual report, we have a proposed agenda for this meeting. Please turn to page 1. Do we have any discussion on or changes to the agenda? Those of you online, ask your questions now or make your comments about the agenda. Actually, Beverly and I have a question about the agenda. Is that?
I don't think it's a question, I just think it's wrong, because the annual meeting, it's the 2023 annual meeting.
But the agenda says the minutes.
The minutes from last year said that the 2022, the minutes from the 2022 annual meeting were approved.
And it should
The
have.
annual I know it's about what happened last year, but it's the annual meeting of the year we're in.
So we're going
It
to.
can't be both ways on both sides.
So we are going to approve at this time the agenda, which says the 2022 annual meeting minutes, which that is correct, that took place last year.
That we've already had those according to the next page. That we approved.
Well, that is where we'll, when we get to the minutes, we'll make an adjustment there. Okay, that wasn't very silent. I apologize for that. If there are any questions, discussion, Pastor Brian, are you and Jennifer Mygogo, or is it to look for the online comments, or just you? Just you? Okay. Can we move forward? Okay. We also ask that when you're making a motion or a second, that you please state your name for the record. So, is there a motion to approve the agenda as written for today's meeting? Thank you. Is there a second? Lois Northey. We will now proceed to vote on the agenda as written. All in favor of approving the agenda as written, say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. A motion carried. Please now turn to page 2 and 3 of your annual report for the minutes from the 2022 annual meeting that took place last year on February 12th. Do we have any discussion on, or are there any corrections to these minutes? Those of you online, please ask your questions and make your comments known at this time. So this is where you would like to have that change. Okay. Hearing no discussion or changes to the 2022 minutes, is there a motion to approve these minutes as they are written? Jan Larson. Is there a second? Mary or Dave? Motion, and all in favor of the minutes, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion is carried. Okay. Old business. Pastor Perry will now give us an update on the drive-in building and the upcoming 75th anniversary celebration.
All right, just to let you know, there were a few small things left to complete with the drive-in project last year, and those were completed this last spring and early summer, so the railing is put on. We are in process of putting a floor over the floor sheeting, so that will be done before we start the summer series. And there was also a wall put up in the back to make it look a little bit cleaner back there. A couple of other things that will be happening this summer with the drive-in is that it is the 75th anniversary of the drive-in, when that started back at the Lakeland Drive-In 75 years ago, when the idea to reach out to tourists started. And so we're going to do a celebration of the drive-in this summer. So we want you to mark off on your calendars August 11th, and that will be a special day out there at the drive-in. It will be a one-service day where we will be having a special service out there. Not exactly sure on the time and on all the details, but what we do know is that there'll be a worship service, there will be some food, and there will be a concert that will be out there. So again, mark August 11th on your calendars as the 75th drive-in celebration. As we prepare for that, there are a couple of projects out at the drive-in that we are going to be working on. And JJ, if you'd flip the first slide. So if you take a look, that is the drive-in building. Looks a little bit bare down there right now. We are going to put some landscaping in around the building. So that is part of it, and to make sure that that landscaping doesn't die, we are going to run a water line down, a sprinkler off of the sprinkler system that sprinkles or keeps the church lawn watered. There'll be a line running down there and put down there so we can water it. The driveway also during construction got beat up to some degree, and we will be looking at replacing that driveway. So that's the second project. And then if we flip it a little bit more, along the south edge or the north edge of our parking lot of our church kind of campus area, there are those trees. And if you were out at the drive-in last year, there were these mounds of dirt that had weeds all over them. Those mounds of dirt have been pushed up alongside the trees. And why don't you flip it one more slide, JJ? So there is a level spot right to the north of those trees where there will be grass planted, and it will be seeded down so that people can park in the parking lot right out here and then take lawn chairs. There might be picnic tables out there so you can sit out there kind of on top of that hill and look down at the drive-in from there. So that, along with the drive-in celebration and the concert, is a project that we're working on, and that project will be funded through donations. So we're not working on taking that out of the budget, and John is working on that as a fundraiser, and that is started off really, really well. So if you would like to donate towards that, get a hold of John. Any questions on any of that? Yes.
I think a lot of people don't realize that the sprinkler system is, we have our own well, so it really isn't a big expense to us.
Yes. Yep. So all the lawn that stays really green around here in the summer is watered through a well that's on the west side of the church, and that makes it much cheaper to water than what it would be if we were using city water. Thank you, Ron.
Any online questions, Pastor Brian? Okay.
All right.
Oh,
Thank
don't go
you.
too
That's
far,
right.
please.
I don't go too far.
Please don't go too far. Pastor Perry, who is up here still, will now give an update on the Columbarium and Three Cross Memorial Gardens. And you can reference those in your book, in your financial, or in your annual report book on pages 22, 23, and 24.
So the report from the Columbarium Committee is on page 22 and tells about some of the activities that have happened with the Columbarium. And I don't know about you, but we talked about the Columbarium, I think it was 3 years ago or 2 years ago, the 3 annual meetings ago. And we voted on that to approve putting in a Columbarium. And if you haven't been out there to look at the north side of the church, it's just beautiful out there where those mounds have been moved. There's the parking lot, but there is also the Three Cross Memorial Garden with trees and the Columbarium in the middle of it. And as of today, I believe we're at 46 niches that have been sold out of 80, which to me is doing really, really well. That surprised me as to how many that we actually sold in those first 2 years. And I want to talk a little bit about some of the long-term goals on and for the Columbarium. And I'm going to go back a number of years ago when I was recently married at my home church at Trinity Lutheran out in the country. And, we wanted a lot of different projects going on at the church, and there wasn't always money to do that. And at our annual meetings, there would be a point in the annual meeting where we would pause the annual meeting and we would switch over into the cemetery board meeting for Trinity Lutheran Church. And they would tell us that there was well over $100,000 in the cemetery fund. And I was like, whew, that's a lot of money in there that we could be using to do ministry, which is what we should be doing with it. But the congregation was like, nope, we need that money in that cemetery fund. And as time has gone by, I understand the purpose of that. When we were at the church, there was worshiping people anywhere from probably 50 to 75. Now that congregation, I would say, worships anywhere from 10 to 20. And without that fund, as that church declines, that cemetery will kind of fall into disrepair. And so in 21, when I was on my sabbatical, I went and visited some of the cemeteries where my relatives were at. And this picture here happens to be my grandmother Ida's gravestone up in northern Minnesota. And when I got there, it was all covered up with dirt. And I'm like, where is Grandma Ida's gravestone? I couldn't find it. And so that, again, reminded me of the importance of taking care of the graves and the markers of the people that we cherish. So we bring it, so there's another one, and that's at Trinity Lutheran, where my parents and another set of grandparents are buried at, and that is the one where we attended church at. And so part of the point of the columbarium and the cost that it is for the units themselves is that we get enough money into a fund that allows the columbarium to be taken care of into perpetuity. So as for a long, 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 long time. And so doing some of the planning and taking a look at how to run longer term the columbarium. We've made a few changes to the pricing of things. In the end, it ends up being the same, relatively the same, but if you look on page 23, on the left, you'll see the old way that we were pricing out the columbarium and the niche pricing, and the new way is on the right. On the right, what we're doing is combining everything together. So there's one payment, so that there aren't these multiple payments that we need to track. And so moving forward, the cost will be, at least this year, if you look at page 24, the cost is $2,500 for the niche, but that includes almost all of the cost to it, other than the engraving that would be on your niche grant, on the niche door. And the reason that we didn't include that in is that you might have somebody that has a name like Perry Benjamin Allgard, and you've got a lot of letters that you don't know how much that's going to cost in the end. So again, looking at the columbarium and how it's run and how we can try to run that as efficiently as possible to build up a fund that longer term will be there for perpetuity. Any questions on the columbarium? Dennis? Oh.
Phyllis? Oh, sorry, you don't have the microphone.
Just a quick question. Was there a scatter garden that was going to be done too?
Is there a what?
They called it a scatter garden where you would spread remains that way?
There was some talk of a scattering gardens, but that did not happen. There is also I guess you'd call it a scattering gardens. No, what is pet memorial garden?
They're not scattered, though.
Right. They are the ashes of the pets are buried in bamboo urns
Biodegradable.
that will degrade over
Yep.
time. But there is no scattering garden for human
Phyllis.
ashes.
Phyllis has a question, Lenny.
I guess I was just wondering, with your new pricing, what does that do for those of us who have already purchased our? Do we just still go ahead and purchase the others all separately?
You have purchased at your price, which is going to be all-inclusive, just like the new purchasers, except you will be paying for the inscription on the door at the time, just like everyone will be. There will be some expenses that will be incurred, however, for those first 46 people, and it's possible that you may be asked to help donate to cover some of those expenses, but it will be an ask. I would like to, and there can be more questions if there are any online questions. Okay, I would like, though, to ask the original, or the Columbarium Committee, to please stand. Bob Brown was one of the founding members, John Adams, Denny Perry, Joe Abens, Gary Fisk, Chris Johnson, Len Holdorf. I think I've got everybody. And myself. We are happy to answer any questions you might have. We're literally only a phone call away, and we'd love to meet with you if you have any questions. And thank you to the committee.
Yes, that committee needs a lot of praise for the work that they have done to set this up and to make this happen. There was a lot of time and effort put into it, and we really appreciate all of the hard work to make that happen. So,
Thank you.
thank you.
One other area of old business that is not on the agenda that I would like to address is the recognition of the centennial and the hours and time that it took put together such a wonderful celebration. There were many, many volunteers who helped with that. But I want to give a particular thank you to the Deacon Board, Susan and Corey Kuhlander, Gary Gunderson, Ann and Perry Allgard. They did so much behind the scenes, which took lots of time and effort, and it was absolutely a beautiful day, so I want to thank them very much, too. Okay, now we're getting to the reports. Will Gary Peters, who's the chair of the trustees, please come forward to give the financial report?
Thank you, Cindy. Everybody see me okay? Haven't had that issue. All right, I'd like to review the results for the 2023 year. So if you would turn to page 32 in your annual report. The top section reports our income for the year. And we'll be looking at the middle two columns, the 2023 actual and the 2023 budget. So if you go down to the total income about halfway down the page, you can see that our total income that we did receive was $850,000 for the year, and the budget was $874,000. And you might say, oh my gosh. Well, it's okay, because when we get to the expense side, the expenses ran under budget. So the fact that we didn't quite take in all the money that we'd budgeted worked out okay. So you can see there that we were about $69,000 below what we budgeted for income. But if you then flip to page 36, you can see what I'm talking about on the expenses. The total expenditures for the year, two lines from the bottom, up there at the top part of the section. 797 was our actual expenses for the year. 874 is what we'd budgeted. So we were $76,000 under budget on the expense side. So that's good, kept costs under control, and then there were some outlying reasons for those decreases as well. But in any case, we ended up then $53,000 to the good. So we added that to our reserves coming into 2024. And if there's any questions as you look through the 2023 information, I'll attempt to respond to those. In the middle of page 34, the one we pay a lot of attention to is the utilities. You can see under buildings and grounds, the gas and the electric, sewer and water. Both of those came in under budget, or one was over budget just a little, one was under budget, net under budget, and then you can see what we budgeted in for 24, and we'll talk about that later. But that's one that's out of our control, but they still came in pretty good shape. Any other questions on items that you see in the expenses that you have a question on? A lot of information, and this is where Val Waters, our bookkeeper, does a great job of keeping track of this information for us. And this is what our job is one of our jobs as trustees is to monitor this on a monthly basis. And she does a great job getting those reports out to us so we can do that. Any questions? Good? Okay. All right.
Okay, thank you. I will now read the Audit Committee report, which is on page 38, and it's submitted by Emily Rossman, our treasurer, and Cole Milbrath from the Trustees Board. The Audit Committee has reviewed the statements of assets and liabilities for First Lutheran Church as of December 31st, 2023, and we find that the statements accurately reflects the financial condition of the church as of this date. We reviewed on a test basis invoices and checks for accuracy and proper classification. We reviewed the quarterly payroll reports and compared them to the financial records. We believe that the records are reasonably stated. So we've already asked for discussion on the financial report, but do we have any discussion, comments, questions? Do you think we've allowed enough time? Okay. Hearing no further discussion or changes to the financial report, it is presented as published. Is there a motion to approve the financial report? Is there a second? Thank you. We will now proceed to vote on the financial report. All in favor of approving the financial report, say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried. New business. Joseph Prouty will now give us the Personnel Committee update.
Good morning, or good afternoon now, I suppose. So Barb couldn't be here, so I'm going to do a brief speech on what our Personnel Committee was about. So we were asked to be put together to help review some documents, get us up to date, and the first thing that we were asked to do was to go over job descriptions and make sure that those were in line with what the church was asking our staff members to do. And then once we did that, we took a look at our competitive wage market analysis. Are we paying where we need to pay? What does that look like? And we made some suggestions to the Board of Trustees for that. And then the last thing we've been working on here, which I think is pretty much finalized, was just updating the employee handbook to make sure that that is current and we have all the right language and everything in there to be compliant. So really, it was a lot going on this first year, but a lot of fun, and yeah, it was a good thing. So any questions?
Yes, let's entertain questions or comments with regards to the Personnel Committee. While we're waiting for the online people to get their comments put through, I would like to have the Personnel Committee please stand. Besides Joseph, we have Barb Work, Nancy Wirtz, Amanda Titterington, and Gary Peters. We thank them for all the hours and hours that they have put in and to make sure that we got this right, and they've done an absolutely wonderful job. So thank you very much, all of you. Would you like me to wait just a few minutes, or go ahead? Okay. Pastor Perry, will you now please read the ballot from page 41?
So this year, we've got a number of people that are going off the board, or 5 of them. And then, so that means that we need to replace some, and some are signing up for another term. And so if we take a look at the ballot, we've got Board of Trustees. We need 1 this year. Amanda Titterington is on the ballot for that, and that is a 3-year term. Secretary, nomination is Evie Robinson, and that is for a 2-year term. Board of Deacons, Steve Loken for a 3-year term. Financial Secretary, Cheryl Paul, and if you are looking at an older, or the first version of the annual report, that's not written in, so you can write that in for your notice. Children's Ministry Board, Mallory Munden and Carissa Jansen for 3-year terms, each of those. Nominating Committee, vote for 5, Bob Brown, Beverly Walsmith, Joy Christian, Krista Ruse, and Kathy Grieve. Youth and Family Board, we have 2 new ones coming on there, Tracy Evans and Julie Wilkin for a 3-year term. And President Cindy Redmond has agreed to do 2 more years of being president of the congregation. And so those are the boards. Also, a couple of committees. Columbarium Committee, 1-year term. Vote for 5 of those. So Cindy Redmond, Kristen Johnson, Joe Abens, Denny Perry, and Gary Fisk. And then Missions Committee, and I'll explain a little bit more about that in a little bit. But we are working on trying to have that become more of an elected board, as we are really managing a lot of money, and we're working on some changes in that. So we'll be voting for 7, Carrie Jack, Phyllis Anderson, Lynn Eggstall, Gary Fisk, Linda Nace, Kaya Gonerman, and Tricia Ferguson. And then we have some delegates, and the rest are all delegates. So Inga Mokoboji Camp delegates, Mary Toonhorse and Judy Valen, one-year term. And then Synod delegates this year, Mark Stelzer and Kathy Stelzer, and Mike and Lynn Eggsdahl. And then St. Luke's delegates for a one-year term, Norm Olson and Judy Olson.
So now, thank you. So now it's time to ask if there are any nominations from the floor. So those of you online, please text Pastor Brian or put your nominations in the Facebook comment section. And we are open for nominations and silence. This isn't awkward at all.
For listening, for God being.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are good. Okay. Is there a motion that the nominations would cease? Thank you. Thank you. And is there a second? Thank you. We will now proceed to vote that nominations cease. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Nominations are closed. Hearing no nominations from the floor, is there a motion for casting a unanimous ballot? Denny? No, I'm just kidding. Dave Rowley, a second? Okay, thank you. We will now proceed to vote on casting a unanimous ballot. All in favor of casting that, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, thank you all very much. All right, Gary Peters, you are up here again. Please come forward for a discussion on the proposed budget for 2024. That begins on page 32 in your annual report. The budget has been approved by the full council at their January meeting.
Thanks again, Cindy. And thanks to the Personnel Committee. Yes, I was on it, but that was a little bit of work. Kind of started it with last year's annual meeting. There was some discussion on job functions and what was included in job descriptions. And so we took it upon ourselves in accordance with the Constitution to have the Personnel Committee appointed. And so Personnel Committee, as was reported, did a lot of work to get up to the point this year, and we'll see some of those results as we go through the proposed salaries for the 2024 year. So as Cindy said, turn to page 32. And that again, and now we'll be talking the far right column, the 2024 budget. And the top section on page 22 is the income section. And then following that are the expense sections by category. And on page 36 is the total. And let's just take a look. Let's just flip between page 32 and 36 here for a minute. The total proposed income for the year is $858,500. You can see that in the middle of the page, far right column. And our total expenses on page 36, the far right column, is anticipated to be $970,790. And you might say, wow, that's a little bit short. And in fact, it is, but that negative number, the $112,290, and we'll talk about why that excess is there, why the expense is there, but that will come out of reserve funds. So we're not anticipating the congregation to support that total increase for the 2024 year. There's some special items in the budget that we're going to use some reserves, some of our church reserves that we've been carrying forward to pay for some of the expenses. So that's the $112,290 that we're saying those will come out of reserves that are being carried forward. Okay, so that's the basic on why that's a negative number. Normally we try to balance it. Okay, but since we have some significant expenses coming up during this year, which we'll talk about here shortly, we said part of that we're going to anticipate funding out of the reserves that we're carrying forward. Okay, so let's turn back to page 32. In the middle section of the income, you can see fundraiser income and 75th celebration. Pastor's already talked about the items that are included in there: a new road work, some dirt moving, some landscaping, the water line, and then the celebration itself. We're anticipating in the middle of that section all those costs approximating $56,500. And so that's on the income side as a separate item. And it's a separate item because John Adams has taken it upon himself on benefit of the church to raise that money separately outside the general budget. Okay, so if there's any way you can help with that as John approaches you, or you just want to do it voluntarily, that's our goal to raise. And then if you flip to page 34, under buildings and grounds, the middle section toward the bottom, you see drive-in worship improvements and celebration. The far right column is $56,500. So that's where we've budgeted the expense, and we budgeted the income up in the income section that will be raised specifically for that purpose. Okay, any questions on the 75th anniversary income and expenses? I think Pastor did a good job of covering the items that we're going to have the expenses for. All right. Then let's move on through the expenses. Go back to page 32. Middle of the bottom section, worship and music, you'll see a line called projection equipment. This is on the projectors that you've noticed over the last few Sundays. Once in a while, the projector was a little finicky, and it may or may not have had something to do with the long term that we've had it, but we had those a long time. I remember buying the first set. That's how old it is. Okay? So it's been around for a while. I remember going through the process on the board and approving the purchase. And so to replace the projector units that we have and get them up to date with current technology, that'll be a $30,000 expenditure. Okay, so we've got that built into our budget for 2024. Okay, then if you move over to page 33, again, keeping an eye on the right-hand column, those are our budget numbers for this year. You see a big one under youth ministry. Senior high youth, you see a $10,000 number. The youth have a trip. They're going to New Orleans this summer, and the church has budgeted $10,000 to support that cause and to contribute toward their trips. They'll also be raising money on their own to get up to the total amount. And amazing to me that when Pastor did his homework and figured out how to get down there, busing and motels and all that stuff, it was cheaper to fly. So the kids are going to have an experience to fly to New Orleans and back for this session. And so that's part of what this is. And then during Lent, we'll be having any of the proceeds from the Lenten services will go toward the youth. And so that's how they'll raise the money for the summer trip. Pastor, can you remember the number, how many we have going? 26 in my mind, but...
Yeah, we have 15, I believe it's 15 youth and 4 adults. And we are working together with Grace Lutheran in Spirit Lake. And so the combined 2 churches have 31 youth and adults going together.
So 15 and 4 from our church and 31 total. So that's what the $10,000 is for. That's our contribution toward that. And then if you flip to page 34, again, keeping your eye on the right column, buildings and grounds, we already mentioned this when I went over the expenses, but our budget for gas and the electric, sewer, and water, we did increase those a little bit, not knowing where those prices will go. It seems like they're on an uptrend, so we made sure we had enough budgeted there. We put a little cushion in those. All right, then if you go down to the bottom of that section, 2 lines from the bottom, it says air conditioners for the fellowship hall. We've had a couple of one that's probably on its last leg and one that's going to be there real soon. And we went out and got quotes on replacing them, and the $113,000 should be the cost of replacing the 2 units. Now, we may or may not get those both done in 2024, but we budgeted for it. And if you remember when we talked about the excess of the expenses over the income, that's the $113,000 that's causing that negative number. And we as a committee decided it would be good to reach into our reserve funds rather than to ask specifically the congregation members to contribute toward that. And we just think that's a sound decision, because that's what those reserve funds are for when things pop up of an emergency nature like this, and then we don't have to come asking every time it happens. So that's the 113, and then we already mentioned the 56.5 right below it. That's our 75th anniversary celebration. And I think the only other item, not because it's big, but just because it's different, is on page 35, about 6 lines from the bottom. It says Columbarium Administration. Historically, there's just been a lot of hours spent keeping up on the Columbarium records. And we don't know whether we'll have to spend this or not, because we did simplify the method of charging for the columbariums, as you already heard this morning, just a flat fee instead of having to keep track of all those individual items, which seem to be a time-consuming process. So we tried to simplify it. So whether we need that $2,650 or not is still in question, but I wanted to get the committee wanted to get a line item on there just in case we did have to spend some money with somebody to keep track of those expenses for the columbarium. Okay. All right, and then on the last page, 36, benevolence, what we give to other organizations is always important to us. So we did increase the $75,000 budget in '23 to $80,000, which is a 7% increase. So we do plan on continuing to support the outside organizations, and that's where Pastor already mentioned the mission committee spends a lot of time and effort deciding where those monies go. They're more qualified to do that than us. We're more concerned with the total dollars coming in and going out. So that's what the mission committee, one of their primary responsibilities is saying where that money is going to be allocated. All right. So I think those are the highlights. Any questions or comment? I guess I should mention a little more about the Personnel Committee. That was a big process for this year. We spent a lot of time and effort going through and did a market study. And thanks to Barb for her work on that, going out and finding out reasonable salaries were, what other churches, organizations were paying for the various job functions. So we did that to get a feel, to give us a sanity check that we're at least in the ballpark. And so we did that, and we also looked at, again, the job descriptions. So we knew what was being done and what we were paying for those jobs being done and make sure they were covered and what we would anticipate. So that was a big project for this year, and the committee will continue forward. I believe Pastor feels like it's a good sounding board for him as he administrates the function of the church and on the administrative level. So I'll stop there. Any questions? Brian?
Carol DeShepper asked, what benefits are employees eligible for? Full-time and part-time are all eligible. Are they prorated for part-time?
Okay, a good question, something I should have mentioned. I did have it highlighted, but went right over it. Let's turn to page 35 real quick. And about the middle of the page, you can see this is where we start with our salaries. And we'll just pick on the salary music minister, Jennifer Johnston. That's her salary, and then you see a line below it. It says fringe benefit allowance. We're not required, Pastor and Carol, to carry any type of insurance on our employees. It's at the decision of the church to do so. But we know now in the world the way it is that insurance and the fringe benefits are very important to people as they're looking for jobs. So we took it upon ourselves to at least take a first step here and give everybody a fringe benefit allowance. And that fringe benefit allowance is $250 a month for a full-time equivalent person. So if anybody's working less than full-time, they would get a prorated share of that $250 a month. So this is our start to attempt to do something about that and to help with the fringe benefits. And we'll continue to analyze that as we go forward and see if we can make that package even better as we go. But this is our first step forward. So you'll see as you go down there, you'll see a fringe benefit allowance for every job position and job title as you go down there. Okay, thank you. Yeah, Pastor.
Got another one for you from Archie Berridge. Asked, what happened to the building fund that's to be used for items like air conditioning and heat, etc.?
One more time.
what happened to the building fund that's to be used for items like air conditioning and heat, et cetera?
What happens to them? What happens to the funds? The funds? Like if we don't use the 100 and...
Oh, if we don't use the whole amount, you mean? Is that,
I apologize, I'm just repeating the question verbatim
Okay,
as
no.
I have it here. I assume it's perhaps the line item
yeah,
that
who's asking, Archie?
Archie's asking, what happened to the building fund that's to be used for items like air conditioning and heat, et cetera?
What happened to it?
Yep.
So there is the foundation money that can be used for general fund.
Right.
If that's what Archie is referring to, that money is still there. But because of the reserves that we have in the general fund, we are looking at that.
Right, the old building fund that was there for a long time, from construction church forward, I think that's been used. Wasn't it? Yes, I'm pretty sure it was, based primarily on the ceiling, or on the roof work when we had that done. Okay, so, yeah, that building fund that was there has been used up, and I said, I think it was when we did the roof work, had to do the new roof work. Yes, question?
When they give electronically on Banco, you can choose general fund or building fund. And so there is contributions that come in that go toward building fund, but it's just reflected in the general.
Okay, when you
But
give
there
your
is a
online
break.
amounts through what?
Banco. that you're
Vengo?
giving, when they give electronically,
Okay,
you can choose a building fund. So there are people that give to that building fund,
okay.
and that can be a separate number, but it's included in the general.
When you get the building fund money in, what fund are you putting it in?
It goes automatically into a building fund.
Okay.
It just is in the general total,
Okay,
but we can have a separate amount that is put in.
okay, so you can give separately to it through the online giving, okay?
Yes, but it's reflected in the general account.
Okay.
Total, but there is a building fund, so that might be what he's
Okay,
referring to.
okay, all right. And we keep track of that separately then, you're saying? Okay, all right. Yeah, Pastor?
Not a question, but just a comment from Barb Work, who's on the Personnel Committee. She just wanted to add, we also have benefits in the form of PTO.
Do we what?
Barb Work, who's on the Personnel Committee, just wanted to add the comment regarding benefits, that we also have benefits in the form of PTO.
Yes. Paid time off, PTO is also a benefit that our employees have. It's not a dollar and cents benefit, that's why you don't see it in the budget. Now, Barb Work making the comment from offline to help me out there, so thanks, Barb. So yes, the PTO is a benefit that they have, it's just not a dollars and cents item.
Dennis?
Okay, I just see that there's no money budgeted for a youth minister. I know it was a tough position to fill previously. Is this just going to be a break for a year for this, or is it going to be brought up again for the next year, or just wondering about that?
Good question. I'll start and Pastor can fill in if needed. When Josh Carr returned to Camp Foster after spending some time here, the youth ministry program, the operations were assumed by both pastors to cover that, and that's where it's at now. But is there a goal in the future to get that position covered again? Yes. But the pastors decided to take over, keep it going in the right direction for now, but it will be a budgeted item going forward, but not for the 24 year. They're still in the process of analyzing and saying, what do we really need? What do we want to ask for? So, good question. Pastor, anything to add? Okay. All right, any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Gary. So I feel that we've given enough time online and for those of you in the sanctuary to ask your questions with regards to the budget. And I want to thank Gary Peters for his coming forward, and you, Joseph. I was remiss in not thanking you for coming forward and speaking also. Okay, so is there a motion to approve the proposed budget for 2024? Is there a second? Arnie Rasmussen. We will now vote on the proposed budget for 2024. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Thank you. Pastor Perry will now give an update on our mission team. You can reference page 21 of your annual report for that.
Thank you. As we look at the church and we look at our mission statement, serving to make a difference, the mission aspect of the church is an important part of it. And one of the items that we've been looking at is potentially making the mission, what used to be a mission team, eventually a mission board that would be like the deacons, the trustees, the children's ministry, and the youth and family, so that it would have a place at full council, that it would be potentially a larger board. And so we're just kind of taking baby steps moving towards that and towards the idea of trying hard to empower the congregation in their serving. A lot of times in the past, the mission team has done a lot of the work themselves. What we're working on trying to move towards is them also finding people who will work and help to support those items and those things. And there are lots of different people that do a lot of different things in terms of reaching out to the community around us. And so we would just want to have the mission committee, board, team, however you want to put it, kind of recognized as a very important part of the congregation. If you look at, it was in the budgeting, we give away well over $100,000 a year, and that's making a difference in the world around us. So just kind of trying to ramp up what the mission team is doing.
Thank you. And I would like to have the mission team please stand. Phyllis Anderson, Carrie Jack, Lynn Egstall, Gary Fisk, Linda Nace, Kaya Gunnerman, Tricia Ferguson, and Ann Allgard. Thank you all for your hard work and dedication to our missions. So we've reached the point where this is a good time for questions, although I think we've probably addressed most of them. However, anyone in the sanctuary that has a question about anything that we've covered, please raise your hand. And those of you online, please text or put in Facebook comments any questions that you might have. And we will enjoy a moment of silence. Are we good? We're good. Okay. Pastor Perry, it's you again. You will do a recognition of the staff members.
Bring my list up so that I don't forget anybody like I've done in the past. And so, yes, I won't stand in front of the microphone. We don't want to make it go crazy because I'm using my other microphone. Anyway, staff, so we'll start by having Brian on hook, I guess, and have him come over. So Brian Jack as associate pastor. Jennifer Johnson up in the tech booth as our director of music ministry. And I'm not sure if she's going to come down, but she's... What? Yeah, we can wait. You can come down. Director of Children's Ministry is Tammy Carr. Office Manager Lynn Egstall. Facility managers, Bruce Liu and Lenny McNay. Coordinator of Supportive Ministry, Ann Allgard. To stand in the middle. Yeah, right. Stand in here so everybody can see you.
Move over a little more.
Bookkeeper, Val Waters. An assistant bookkeeper is Diane McMillan. Director of Development, John Adams. And John, as you know, is part of the Grace Lutheran Primgard team, and he had a visitation he needed to do today with someone there. So, and then Sioux Falls chaplain is Bob Schell. Did I get everybody? And really appreciate the staff and all of the talent that they bring, and all of the work that they do here at First Lutheran. So if we could give them a big round of applause. You can stand for them. That would be great. Stand up. All right. Thank you for coming up.
And pastors, just stay here for 1 second. And I would like to take this opportunity to recognize our two pastors. They continue to serve us well, and we are so blessed with their kind spirits and souls. You're always here for us, all of us, in so many ways, sharing the Word of God and that we are loved and forgiven. We thank you for all you do. I personally want to thank you both for helping me with this meeting and also for your help all year long. It means the world to me, and thank you very much, both of you. Okay, moving on, I would now like to recognize the retiring board members. So please come forward, those of you that are retiring. We're going to start with Bob Brown is retiring as financial secretary. Beverly Wallsmith, Bob, please bring your sign. Beverly Wallsmith as secretary. Joy Christians and Kathy Grieve from the Youth and Family Board. And Krista Roos from the Children's Board. So Bob and Beverly are representing the retiring board members with their signs. Thank you, thank you. We thank you, stay right there. We thank you for sharing your time, talents, and treasures with us. You've done a wonderful job representing First Lutheran Church. We appreciate it very much. Don't go away, please. Now I'd like all current board members and those that were newly elected to please come forward with your signs and stand with your group. Cheryl is not. Right over here, Evie. So we want to, there you got a couple more, come on up. This was so well organized, wasn't it? Thank you, Heath. We want to thank you all for stepping up and serving to make a difference. You've done a wonderful job. You new ones, we know you'll do a great job. And we thank you for taking your volunteer time to represent First Lutheran. And finally, we've accomplished a lot as a congregation here at First Lutheran. And I want to thank all of you online and in person for being here today. As members of First Lutheran, we are definitely stronger together as a team than we are individually. And God has indeed blessed us. So I thank you all for what you're doing and for being here. Thank you. Let's.
Yes, I want to take just a moment and thank Cindy for the hard work that she has done over the little bit more than past 2 years. Cindy has done a lot and puts in a lot of time going to many of the board meetings and the meetings that happen here at the church so that she knows what's going on. So very informed president. So let us stand up and give Cindy a round of applause.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. appreciate that. Thank you, I appreciate that. It's my humble honor and joy to be able to represent First Lutheran Church, so thank you. Let's all, I think let's stand and close with the Lord's Prayer, please. And I want to get away from the microphone. Our Father,
who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
We adjourn this meeting at 1:06. How about that? Okay, thanks, everybody.
If anyone wants to take one of the sack lunches or extra sack lunches, there are some there, so grab them as you go out so we don't have them go to waste.